I had no idea so many of you didn't understand what the executive wasteland was. The amount of DMs and comments I got on LinkedIn was amazing in the last 24 hours. So I thought for my executives out there that are worried about could they end up in executive wasteland, I would give you the three warning signs that I've seen in 20 years as a career coach that can predict that you could end up there. I'm also going to talk about three things that you can do to avoid it. This is going to take me more than 30 seconds, though. So if you don't have time to listen all the way through, bookmark it and come back, okay? So when I define executive, it's really anybody that's on that upward track, leadership roles, and you're looking to climb. And it's a wonderful thing, right? Because it can be very engaging, very satisfying, very lucrative, but it comes with its own set of risks, which I talked about in the TikTok yesterday. For me, there are three clear warning signs. And the first one is the comment that somebody shared with me yesterday. This person talked about having the quote unquote prestigious resume. So, the prestigious resume is something that a lot of people follow. They look for big name companies to work for. They often go to Ivy League or very well known schools. They get involved in programs that are very well known so that recognizably on the resume, it's not hard to go, oh, look, check, 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 check. And that can be a great thing, right? That's why people choose to do those things. However, there's plenty of people at that level. And so just because you have a prestigious resume does not guarantee that you will always be employable at the higher level. Now, the second thing that's a real concern is when you have the senior most position in your space, your industry, your skill set, but you're not a C suite member. These people are at unbelievable risk. And the reason for that is they're often brought in to work through a challenge or an idea like a specialist to solve a problem, and they work themselves out of a job. And eventually the C suite decides they need something different in that leadership role. And it's not something you have because you pinned yourself to being that type of problem solver. That can be a real red flag if that's where you are right now. And then the last thing that I tell people to check is once you know your like things that you want in a job as an executive, right? Because if you think about it, part of the reason you've done this is you wanted to be more selective in what you chose for a job. Right now, if you were to go to a job board like LinkedIn, which would normally have your jobs, if you can't find at least five perfect fit jobs, salary level, location, skill level, job title, industry, checking all your boxes, that shows you that you are now really in the top of the job pyramid that I talk all the time about here. And that means it's way more competitive for you to get a job. And as I mentioned yesterday, you're now a coach. There's one coach and many players. So the competition to be coach gets even stiffer, even tougher. And those are three really clear warning signs that you are a really true candidate for Executive Wasteland. Now, I promised you that I would talk about the three things, and I wrote a lot of notes here about what I do with executives in order to help them avoid executive wasteland. And these are all things you can do for yourself. So let's get into them. So, the first thing I want to ask you is can you afford to live without a job for 18 months? Do you have side incomes? Do you have enough income saved? Because once you hit this level, your job search is automatically going to take a lot longer. Like I said, far fewer jobs available, much higher level of competition. You've got to be ready to weather that storm. There's a reason why everybody in the C suite has parachutes, parachute packages. They all get that if they're fired or they quit or whatever, they get 2 years severance. That's what they do in the C suite. And that's because they understand how long it's going to take to find that next right move. Because what you don't want to do, once you're at this level, your reputation's up here, you don't want to have to take a job down here because what does it do? It sets your reputation back. You'd rather hold out for the right opportunity. Okay. Second thing I wrote down here is do you have a strong network outside your current employer? And when I say strong network, I mean a lot of people, a lot of peers and other individuals are aware of you and the work that you do and the value that you provide. So much of the time, the way that people get to this level is they work in their job. They get really good at their job, and the people around them, the immediate people around them, know it, right? But the moment they step outside of that, would other people know it? Do you have a reputation? And that leads to the third one is what have you done to brand yourself? So if you think about it, you are a very expensive brand, right? Expensive brands have a strategy in which they make sure that people understand their value. What have you done to make sure that people understand the problems you solve, the pain you alleviate? What evidence are you putting out there? Because you can't just sit there and say, I'm a guru and a thought leader, right? It's, show me the money, it's prove it, it's provide facts and evidence. And that is called documenting your gravitas. And gravitas is that fancy term for depth of knowledge. So, what have you done to go out there and objectively document your gravitas in a way that others can consume it and validate it so that strangers can even start to form an idea about your level of expertise? These three things are what will insulate you. And quite frankly, when done correctly, will ensure that opportunities are always coming to you. Because when done right, that's exactly what happens. When a brand is well known and in high demand and is seen for its value, they don't have to knock on doors, they're coveted. People are coming to them. And if you want that for the rest of your executive career, you're going to have to work on your strategy in those ways in order to make sure that you're covered. Now, if this made sense and you are looking for some help with that, I obviously offer that service. I run an in person mastermind. It's 2 days, and then afterwards, you're part of a cohort for 3 months where we meet weekly and we get your brand really set up and ready to go. If you're interested in it, seating is limited. I've got the March dates linked in my bio right now. I'll always let you know when the next event's coming. But again, seating is limited because it's a very small cohort, so I can work with all of you one on one over 2 days and then for those following 3 months. It's a great way. I've worked with hundreds of executives on this program privately. I only just started offering the mastermind because the one-on-ones were so successful and I had so many people asking for it and I just can't do it one-on-one. So if you're interested, check it out or DM me on LinkedIn. I can talk you through what that looks like as well. But it's a great way for you to really close your gap in all of this, get your brand out there in a way that you're comfortable with, that you don't feel narcissistic or silly, or you don't worry about how your peers who do know you feel about it. That's exactly what I'm about, making sure that you have a brand that's really authentic but works for you. So I hope that helped. Please, folks, no matter what, whether you work with me, someone else, avoid the executive wasteland. Learn what you need to learn. You work so hard to get this point in your career. The last thing you need to do right now is tumble back. Because once you tumble back and you're in executive wasteland, it can be really hard to get out. You'll get out, but it's really hard to get out. I'd rather you avoid it, right? Okay, good luck, my friends. Go get them.